Good morning, friends. Welcome back to another exciting day in Empires and Puzzles. And of course, we have a new portal that popped up for the Super Elemental Summon. And we are sticking with blue at the moment. It looks like they are giving us a new Super Elemental costume with Anzia. Now, we are certainly going to go ahead and get into this and take a look at what Anzia is all about. But before we do that, I want to take a moment to point out that for some reason, the featured here is going to be Slim Go. I find this a little bit odd because they did just recently release Boo Boo Sang as the last elemental that came out of this portal. It's very odd that they chose not to feature her alongside this new super elemental. She does seem to be pretty powerful, and I think people would like to get her hands on this character. Unfortunately, you are likely not going to have an easy time doing so in this particular portal. All right, now back to our review for Anzia. So in the last couple days, I received a comment on a post where someone was saying that they hoped in a costume review that I did for one of the Three Musketeers that came out, they wanted to know what the differences were between the costume and the base. I usually don't spend a lot of time focusing on that kind of stuff, but I guess for costumes, I could try throwing it in there. First things first, though, this is going to be a monk class. The original was cleric, so you aren't seeing a huge change in the class bonus. They both do similar things with certain resists and so on and so forth. Monk or cleric both have their pros and cons. I tend to lean a little bit more towards cleric than I do monk, but I think they're both good. All right, over here in the family bonus, a reminder of what we get for the super elemental family is they are going to create power gems on the field, one each turn per number of that color characters you have in your team. So, in other words, if she's the only blue in your team, you create one power gem. If you have 2 blues, 2 power gems. If you have 3 blues, 3 power gems, etc. You can have a maximum of 5 power gems per color. These power gems will then do like what I like to call zappy tiles. They'll zap someone on the opposing team for 20 damage each turn. 20 damage is really not a lot. It's one thing that I wish that they would have upgraded a bit in updating these characters, but they didn't, so we move on from there. I do think it can be kind of cool to help you finish off fighters that resurrect or characters you almost killed but didn't quite get that finishing move in. These zappy tiles can help you finish off those types of situations. All right, then let's see. What else do we got here? In our passives department, we get the Troop Mastery. This will be different for offense and defense. So it says that the extra elemental damage from your troops on offense is plus 150%. This does make your troop hit significantly harder, so I do think that's a cool offensive ability. Defensively, it says you receive reduced damage from the opposite element by 25%. So it does help them survive a little bit against the opposite element as well. Now, over here in the Aether Power department, we have Regeneration. This is pretty boring Aether Power, in my opinion, one of the worst in the game, so I don't get overly excited when I see that. Special-wise, we have Radiant Shackles. Now, Radiant Shackles can be interesting. We'll go into it right here. It says, all allies counterattack with 70% of the damage received and a further 8% per ice tile on the board for a maximum of 166% in total. So at average speed, this is a pretty strong counterattack to all, especially if you have additional ice shields on the board. All ice allies regenerate a moderate amount of mana for each counterattack for 5 turns. This effect gets diminished on consecutive activations during the same turn. And then all allies reduce all received damage by 20% for 5 turns. So, right there, the additional mana gain is really nice, but it's only for blue allies. That's something to consider. If you're making like a stacked blue team, this is pretty nice to get the additional mana on top of the counterattacks that kind of push this character through. Also reduces all damage the team receives by 20%. 20% is, it's not exactly like a massive amount of damage reduction, but it does help because it goes across the entire team. So you can't really complain about reducing your incoming damage for everyone by 20%. The one thing I will point out about this character, because we are kind of going over the pros and cons, is that you aren't getting any direct damage or direct healing out of this character. This is a very reactionary character, right? So in order for this character to have weight and significance, you need your opponent to be taking actions against you while this special is up. So if for whatever reason they decide, you know what, we're just going to hold off on attacking for a little while till this effect goes off or until I can dispel it, then you kind of sit in this world where this character isn't doing much for you. The one thing I will say is I just went back to double check the turn count being 5. It's kind of hard to just wait out 5 turns and hope that this character isn't manning up to put this effect back in play. Where would I rate this person? Like, since we kind of do have to put a rating out there and make a decision on what we think this character ended up being, I'm going to say, gosh, I don't know. I have a hard time with this character. I'm going to say a 7. And I understand that this is a really strong counter attack for all. And counterattack for all is powerful, and the effect can go up to 166%, and you're reducing your damage your team receives. So as long as they're attacking you while she's up, they're taking way more damage than you are on your side, because you're reducing by 20% and reflecting even more back. And if you're in an all blue stack team, you're also gaining quite a bit of mana. So I guess my point is this: like, if this character was in a blue stacked team, she'd be an 8. But if you're not getting that additional mana gain for like your whole team, and like she's the only blue that you have, I just don't know if it's that amazing, because she can be answered by a single dispel, right? Like a dispel your opponent's buffs, and everything she does just disappears. So I think with that in mind, the 7 is probably the accurate statement for her. She can be very cool. She's probably a lot more useful being paired with a character like Costume Ott, which gives the buff protection for your team, ensuring that she doesn't become a wasted special to a single dispel. But yeah, I think that's it. Like, I'm not overly impressed by it. Just a reminder, I'm just looking through. So the big difference here between the base and the new costume is the fact that this base is elemental damage. Right here, it says that it only increases the elemental damage of the troops by 100%, and reduce the received damage by 10%. So those are increased significantly here. You get 150% increased damage. You get received elemental damage 25%, or recut. So that's a pretty cool way to go. There's nothing wrong with that. And so, I mean, I guess the costume does have a significant bonus over the original, and I would probably try my best to use the costume for that particular reason. You're also seeing stronger counter attack percentages on the costume. So this one starts with 75 here, but only goes up to a max of 159. This one starts a little bit lower, but receives more per ice tile on the board. That's a moderate amount of mana, and then this effect gets diminished for each. So, and you know what's noticeable is that this one does not reduce the damage your entire team receives by 20%. So there is a real good gain given to this costume. So you're getting better passive. You're getting this additional ability of all allies reduce damage received by 20% for 5 turns. So you put those into play. The costume, I think, definitely wins out, and that is the big difference. So I'm sorry that was a little bit awkward. I should have worked that into the review more. Again, I'm trying to work on this for costumes to highlight the difference between the two. Okay, well, thanks for joining in, everyone. I hope this made some sense. Again, I am still trying this new format. I promise that'll get better. If you like what I do, you're welcome to click the little button at the bottom right. It'll help you find me in the future, and we'll see you next time, everyone.